Well, I've come down to Colby to chat with Wayne, who's, I have to say, quite reluctant to do this interview, but it's a good news story. Wayne, brilliant, because the story is that you saved someone's life potentially the other day, and all in relation that you'd just done your first aid course. I mean, that's in a nutshell. Let's hear about the story.
Well, it was just, I wouldn't make it as dramatic because obviously I'm just...
You're a reluctant hero.
No, I'm not a hero. Basically, I was just dropping my daughter, obviously off to an after sports at the synthetic pitch at Castle Rushen, when I was made aware, obviously, that I seen that there was some sort of commotion up ahead, and obviously there was a car with her indicator, should I say, pulled over to the left-hand side. I could see that all the traffic had come to a halt. The traffic was starting to build up, and I could see some people kneeling in front of a car that would have been heading in my direction at a standstill. I noticed that obviously there was people kneeling in front of it, and I noticed there was obviously a broken windscreen, so I started to make an assumption obviously that there's been some sort of accident. Looking at this, obviously I could see that there was a gap down the middle of the road. I felt that this was an area that I need to make sure that I blocked with regards to I didn't want any traffic coming through and making the situation any worse. So I'd been recently on a course, and the trainer from that course was speaking from some of his experiences over previous sort of years, and one of them was to use your vehicle to maybe block that scene.
So you learned even that sort of thing from this first aid course?
Yeah, absolutely, because it sort of brings in, they brought in real life situations that they've had to deal with within their own sort of time. So I put the vehicle sort of to make a bit of a block in the road, put the hazards on, and then I could see obviously that there was a child, a young lad, that was at the side of the road in front of the car. People were already there, and someone was on the phone, so I was assuming that he was obviously making a call. My reaction is obviously, I don't want that casualty moved. So that's where I came into action, obviously with...
So again, the training, this tells you don't move them, and how to put them in the right position, that sort of thing?
It is, absolutely. I mean, looking at the condition of the car, looking at the position of the actual child, obviously the first thing you do is you're taught to make some sort of assessment. And obviously first thing is danger to yourself and to others, and then after that is to go into the what we call the response of the individual themselves.
What is the right thing to do? Because people might move them and that sort of thing. What should you in general do?
Yeah, the first thing I would say is obviously check for danger for yourself. Then obviously you look for the danger for others with regards, including that casualty. And then I would not move the casualty, certainly looking at the damage of the vehicle and working out that obviously that child has been hit by that car. First thing that's coming into mind is you've got to think the worst. So you've got to think that, head trauma, spinal, it could be anything sort of quite severe.
And these days we're always told not to move people with head problems because there could be massive repercussions.
Absolutely. So the idea is to keep the casualty as still as possible until help arrives, professional help arrives. And obviously that's what I wanted to ensure happened when I got involved.
So you took charge, did you, once everyone realised that you had the training?
It seemed to go that way. Obviously there was people there at the start of it because it all started before I got there, but then obviously when I got in there, and obviously I wanted to make sure that the guy was secure and the lad was sort of made safe and kept still, which is the most important factor of the whole incident, because we were unaware of what condition he was in. Yes, he was alert as he was talking to us, but he couldn't remember the accident, and there could have been any underlying obviously injuries. Because as you know, people who have traffic accidents, with the adrenaline going, they don't necessarily feel anything at the time. It comes out later, and that's why it's important.
Okay, well, I mean, obviously just shrinking the story to keep it within time here. Basically, the guy had gone over the car, been hit by the car, probably hit his head and that sort of thing. And you just looked after things until the ambulance turned up and took over? Yeah,
I just basically sort of monitored his condition, obviously covered him up to make sure he was kept warm. And obviously the driver of the car was obviously suffering from shock. So I had to make sure that she was obviously sat down and reassured as well, because obviously she was the other casualty within this, even though she was the car driver.
Now the point of doing this interview really was, to agree to do it, was the importance that maybe we should all get this sort of training.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as I say, reluctantly, I didn't want to sort of be that, but it was really to stress the importance of the St John and the work they do, and other, obviously, first aid.
But you'd only just taken or retrained on this course a few days earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was a bizarre thing about it, and if anything, that was the sort of the great thing about it, is because it was fresh in my head, and it just shows the importance of, you know, they must run these, you know, they do run these sessions, they do run these courses, and I would certainly tell everybody out there that they should be doing it, and you know, I think these guys deserve so much credit for the time and effort that they put into it. And I phoned them myself just to let them know that, you know, I appreciated everything they taught me, and it did help me in that situation to be a bit more confident with dealing with the situation.
Potentially, I mean, you could have saved this guy's life. I mean, or certainly from being a paraplegic or anything that happens with being moved with spinal injuries.
Yeah, because obviously, you know, at the end of the day, is you don't know what injuries they've got, and it's trying to make the right decisions at that moment. And I think that's where obviously the training comes into sort of action.